Welcome everyone to today's webinar on tips on conducting field training for O'Reilly's Auto Parts. I'm here with Jeremy Van Alstine, and we're going to be going through a number of points, particularly for assisting you guys in doing field training. I saw a couple quotes here. The future of work depends not on what you know, but what you can learn. I thought that was really appropriate for all of us as employees. And it raised the question in my mind, well, what does that mean for our success with O'Reilly's? What depends? What are the factors that are key? Any thought on that, Jeremy?
I think it's training, Steve.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
I think it's training. And the reason, guys, know the reason why this whole half an hour to an hour call was originally established is we received some requests from the field of, hey, what content do I have available? I have a training coming up in a couple months. I have a training coming up in 2 weeks. What type of content do I have available? What should I cover? So we should be covering a lot of that in this during this webinar, not only on content, but how to best to convey that content, what we should be discussing, and really how to get these guys excited about our partnership and what we're doing together. Because that's what's going to drive sales numbers.
Which kind of leads into this next slide. So what are the goals? I think this is not just the goals of this webinar, but the goals for us doing training. Number one, I think it's to leverage our existing training materials. Over the last few years, I think I've been involved with training about 3 years. We've built a lot of content. We'd like you guys to utilize it if you can. Secondly, to learn from each other. A lot of guys have done some really good training. Jeremy's going to offer some thoughts on what he's seen. So we'll share some of the things we've done, and hopefully in the future we can kind of share, cross-share a little bit with what's been going on. And ultimately, conduct more effective training with O'Reilly personnel. I think those are the main 3 goals here.
And I'd say really any distributor. A lot of these things can be utilized, whether it's independent, a strategic account, whoever it may be. Let's utilize this information to help our distributors become better.
It certainly, O'Reilly's has some unique attributes, but a lot of it applies to others as well.
For sure.
So here's what the agenda will kind of go through, and it jumps around a little bit, but because it's all interrelated. We'll talk about what training we've done with O'Reilly's, both at a corporate level and then in the field. We'll talk about what we're planning for the future. We'll share training materials that are available. Some of you guys should be familiar with. Some are going to be pretty new for you. We'll talk about some other support materials that we think might be relevant, and then finish up with best practices, what has worked and what has not. I'll share some of my thoughts on that. So first, what have we done? We just recently conducted in, it says July 13th through 15th, June. Yep. June 13th through the 15th, so about a month ago, a course that we called Introduction to Automotive Paint and TransStar Refinish System. It was a 3-day course, included both classroom as well as hands-on training. It was done up at Baker College, which is a terrific facility in Flint, Michigan. We had about 13 PBE guys and managers, right, Jeremy?
Correct, yeah. Store managers, PBE specialists, RFSMs, or regional field sales managers. So kind of the full gamut of O'Reilly's personnel, and they're really on this first batch was where we already have no mix placed in the market.
And a little bit of background on that, we used a handout, a manual. It was quite large, about 200 pages that we gave to the guys, and you can kind of see a copy. It's similar to things that you guys have seen in the past. It covered a variety of topics, introduction to automotive, paint, basics on paint codes, things like that. Before you start painting and applying any kind of coating, we talked about prepping the vehicle, undercoats, got into color, no-mix, got into the new software, basics on color retrieval, and all the way through clear coat.
One of the biggest things I heard from the guys, Steve, when we presented that material, obviously big course material, we covered a lot of stuff and a lot of things we didn't even have the time to cover. But being able to reference that, the guys like being able to have a manual, especially the RFSMs who have a sales team where they have to get them trained up and running. They really liked having that manual that they could reference, that they could go back to, and also take them through a couple of the courses. Some of them, hey, this primer course was great. I want to take my team through it. I have the content now to be able to take my team through that.
Right. And part of the challenge, and Jeremy and I talked about this beforehand, we tried to get a handle on what level of knowledge and expertise did those 13 people have. Well, we couldn't get it in advance. We did it there at the meeting. and we had, I think, 3 PB specialists. Some of them had been painters before, all the way to store managers. I think a guy took a tech class on painting in
He
high
sprayed an
school.
aerosol once or something like that. You know?
So we had a wide variety, which makes it a real challenge in training. I mean, we've seen that a little bit in our own training, but it was particularly evident here. So those are some of the topics we covered. I mentioned that it was both classrooms, so obviously that manual is the classroom portion, but there was also a hands-on portion. And Kevin Falcus had a great idea. We were going to spray Q panels and some fenders, and we found a source that provides hoods, a company called Mini Hoods, and we had larger hoods and some smaller hoods. Each guy got a hood on the first day, and they prepped that hood. They undercoated the hood the first day. The second day, they selected color. Most of them selected custom colors. They sprayed the color on the hood. Mark Johnson provided us some decals, Transtar and O'Reilly decals, as you can see in that photo there. They applied them. Wasn't used quite the way we had hoped. Some of them had applied them and pulled and removed them so they could see the under the ground coat and the overcoat. Some did not do that. And then the final day we cleared the hoods. So you can see some of the work there. In fact, it turned out to be so good that Jeremy even created a little competition, which really made it fun for these guys. We had a first and second Reillys winner, right?
Yeah, they got pretty jazzed about that. Obviously, anytime you're competing, a lot of these guys are sales guys, and even the store managers, they're held to a sales number. So to be able to have a little competition definitely got the guys excited. As a heads up, a couple of the guys, we're going to be sending some of these hoods to you, to the TM. So some of the guys, Scooter Levasseur, Jim Mueller, Jason Yancey, Tracy Gunter, we want to send these to you guys so you can personally give these to the O'Reilly's personnel, right? Whether it's a territory sales manager, the RFSM, a store manager, or a PB specialist, we're going to be sending you guys with a package. And really what that's going to include is the hood that they did during the course material, a T-shirt, and then also a quick write-up, and then a certificate of completion for the course as well.
Right. Yeah, and those will be going out probably in the next week. We were going to send them out the way they sprayed them. We'll probably do a little cleanup on some of the hoods so that they look good when they get them. So be on the lookout for that. And if you have questions, you can call me or Jeremy.
And we'll be sending out an email to any of the TMs that are in that, hey, you're going to be receiving a hood. You need to go to the O'Reilly's personnel and deliver that to them. We'll be having another follow-up call and an email detailing instructions on that.
Yep. So next question is, okay, what's planned? We have another one of these sessions planned for October. Jeremy, do you want to share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, similar structure, guys. So it's going to be the same content that we covered in the first one. And then we have a little bit more availability. You know, we're looking at 13, 15 people max. You know, I want to keep it around there. Very hands-on as before, but same content. If you have anybody that wants to attend this course, please coordinate with me, and then also we'll need that person to put in a request to Caleb Chapman in Springfield, Missouri. So we're booking up the course. We already have some RFSMs, some additional PB specialists, and these are more of our targeted markets or new markets that we're starting to grow. One of them, Indiana. We have two RFSMs that are probably going to be attending. You know, Michigan's another market that I'm thinking of. So if you have any O'Reilly's personnel, whether it's a store manager, PB specialist, RFSM, let us know. We want to get them trained. We want to get them up and running. We want to get them excited about Transtar and our products and what we're doing together.
Yeah, and just to comment a little bit, I think about a dozen people works best. That college that we work with, Baker, has a classroom that'll hold probably a little bit more than that, and there's 2 large booths. Just if it gets too large, we noticed that it can get a little unruly in the garage. And we learned, I think the first session went really well. We had a lot of discussion, but there's some things we identify we want to change and improve on the second go-round.
I agree.
So that's at a national level. So what's planned, or what's have we done? A couple things you brought up that have been done. Maybe you can comment on each one of these.
So PIC 24, we released a PIC 24, I think about 2 years ago.
Yeah,
and we recently added to it with the Transtar Select line, and it's been something that's been growing. We've been doing PIC 24 trainings, whether it's at the store level or at in a quarterly store manager meeting, in which we get a group of store managers together and train 20 to 60 store managers. So a lot of leverage there when you can get in front of that many people, get them excited about the product, get them knowledgeable. And man, if we can get 60 people moving our products, even if it's just 1 unit a day, that's some significant volume for us organizationally. So we started with the Pick 24, really focused on associated products and some basic clears and primers. Now we're going into more of these quarterly store manager trainings. These are areas where they're really looking to push PBE, whether the district sales manager or district manager is really looking to drive some same-store sales growth. We'll go in there and we'll train 20 to 60 store managers, get them knowledgeable about PBE. And really, one of the biggest things I've seen, Steve, similar to the training that we did in Flint, when we have takeaways or we have binders with information on PBE that they can reference when they get back to the store, it's always of significant value. I think, as everybody knows, when you're in training, you can only absorb so much. So if we have 2 to 4 hours is typically our time frame, if we're able to have some leave behinds in which we give them information that they can reference, man, that's a real shot in the arm to that store manager or that PBE specialist or that RFSM to give them the knowledge that they need to help sell more of our products.
Great, good things in the field. So one of the things we had planned to do on the call was to have a few of the guys speak about some of the field training they have done. So as I mentioned, just because of our technical issues with the audio, we won't do that. But maybe I would just encourage you guys, if you have questions or want to kick around ideas in addition to Jeremy or I, you could call Brent Maxwell, Jim Mueller, or Kevin Falcos. Each of them, I think, had some good ideas. In fact, Brent had sent me an email on this, and I'll kind of paraphrase what he said. Hopefully, I think he's on the line. He said each territory should have different needs, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. He commented, for example, on Albuquerque and Amarillo. He said their needs are more focused on product usage, terms, and processes. He said it's a very different situation versus a market he's been working with now, Tulsa and Dallas. He said there's no PBE specialist. They have no over-the-counter mixed paint, no dedicated PBE. You're probably more familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
And his comment was the class levels start much lower in that area. Their needs on training are more on kind of the basics, the theory part of it, a lot on process, which hopefully our SOPs would help there, product differentiation and competitive advantage, which is an area I think we need to help a lot of store people and districts. So his comment was, seek the needs of the individual territories, understand what they need, cater or customize the training to that area or that store. He said, and then you're going to get the best results, which I thought was pretty appropriate. Any thought or comment on that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I think it's spot on. You know, we need to make sure that we customize, and we did this somewhat in the training in Flint, customize to the audience, right? You're going to have a multitude of PBE experience levels within O'Reilly's or any of these strategic accounts. We need to make sure that we customize our verbiage and then also the information that we're covering based on the audience. If they're experienced PBE guys, we're going to bore them if we're talking about aerosols, right? If they are novice PBE people, aerosols and AP products might be a great place to start.
Yeah, in my experience, I think you tend to see two things, Jeremy. You tend to teach to the lowest level of competence in the room, which slows down and really frustrates more experienced people. On the other hand, you kind of say if there's one guy that's kind of lagging, you can't have the whole group suffer. So you kind of say, hey, we're going to have to move on without you. And then that person gets frustrated. So really trying to understand those needs and maybe grouping them is a good way to approach it.
You know, I'd say for Jim, you know, one thing that I think he's done an exceptional job of is picking his horses, right? Picking the areas that you have driven people that want to do PBE, that want to work with you, that want to drive with you. He picks his horses. He's done a great job of doing that. And then most importantly, cultivating that relationship, right, and then letting them run, letting them sell for him, letting them tee up opportunities. And it's a great team partnership.
And you're referring to Jim Mueller, right?
Correct. Yeah, Jim Mueller. On the Kevin Falco side, you know, I'd say he's done an exceptional job of being purposeful. And what I mean by that is where you're doing a training or where you're allocating your support, it drives your plan. Right? It shouldn't just be going to O'Reilly's to train. We need to be purposeful with our time. Where we're allocating training, we're allocating support. That should be a targeted area in your plan. That should be a targeted area that's going to drive growth for you, whether it's, hey, it's an underserviced market. I don't have anybody currently. I need somebody. but it's got to be purposeful. We got to make sure that we're not just going out there training everybody. It's where we want to be with who we want to be with.
You know, that's an interesting thing I observed about Kevin Falcos. I don't even know if he's on the call. I haven't looked, but he thinks very strategically. I mean, he doesn't do anything without having a strategy in mind. He knows what his issues have to be, but he also can get down at the details. I mean, when it comes to time for a meeting, he's got every detail for that meeting plan. So interesting way he approaches it. So maybe we could shift now from what we've done, and we'll be happy to talk about that more, I think. But what training materials do we have available? So a lot of guys call me. In fact, just recently in the last week or two, guys have said, hey, can you send me a PowerPoint? I want to do a Reillys training. And just my personal experience, and I guess because I'm responsible for training, I kind of direct some of this, although I'm open to suggestions. It requires equipment. You got to have the projector. You got to have screens. You have to have the right room conditions and lighting, or the clarity of the screen is a problem. A lot of times we've seen it where there's so much on the screen you can't even read it. It may as well not even be up there. The other thing is, I think PowerPoint can get overused and abused. People just expect it. So we've kind of shifted to using handouts at training. Not that we don't use PowerPoint, but we're more selective, like in our onboarding training. So it's not dependent on the room or the equipment. It allows the learner, the student, to have something to take away. They can take notes in it. I always tell people when we hand it out, put your name on it. Feel free to make notes in it. They have something with our name on it and our technical information, and they can use it for reference later on. So that's really the direction we move. So guys that have recently asked for PowerPoints, I said, hey, I can provide this for you, but if you want to make a PowerPoint, you could do it. You could create it from some of those. Now, we try to hit the key points of them. We don't read them verbatim. Sometimes if something's really important, we'll say, hey, Jeremy, you want to read that third bullet, that important point? Why we're doing that is we're trying to get the learners involved and go through keywords, and then we'll try to stop and talk about it. So I make reference to that because we're going to talk about what handouts are available.
We were actually just in a store manager meeting in Indianapolis in their Brownsburg, DC, and Matt Rademacher did an exceptional job of just that, customizing the training. There was a lot of content in it. It was a beefy document, but picking and choosing the key points that he thought the team or the Reillys class personnel really needed to know and would resonate with them and help sell more products. He hit those as keynotes, inserted some stories and some of his experiences in the market, and then it really gelled, but also gives the Reillys personnel a takeaway or a take-home document that they can reference. If they need additional information, they know where to get it.
Yeah, we're not going to go through our tech data sheets for this product, but here they are in this section. If you need them, they're there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Great point. So just some of the materials, and I know this is kind of 101 PBE sales, but the O'Reilly's product brochure, the PIC 24, certainly one, and the new one there. Tech data sheets are a great one to provide. We try to provide those in addition to other training materials. SOPs, a lot of our training is now based on SOPs, so I would encourage you always to provide copies of those, and you guys know where to find them. Now, I have the SDS sheets, the safety data sheets on there. That's obviously not a piece that you would use in training, but I only mention if you're taking in liquid someplace, like we just went to Baker College, we have to have the SDS sheets there when you go in. So if you're going to take liquids in and do spray outs, bring the SDS sheets. So that's kind of the starting point, the foundation. So other training materials. You guys have seen a lot of the training modules and materials that we've provided. In some cases, we provide a number of sections or modules in a binder, like that one picture there on the upper left. And we usually put tab dividers in there and we kind of go through it in the course. Also, spiral bound versions of that, like you see here. Those are not expensive to produce, depending upon the size of it and if you'd want color or black and white. And local printers like a Staples can do it quickly, and they're relatively inexpensive. And then we have just smaller ones that are stapled or bound. They're all black and white. A lot of what we use in our onboarding, what we used to call STARS, is what we provide there. So I have sectioned of those, and I'll show you these in a second, for almost all of our AP products. I have one of those for aerosols. I have one for corrosion protection, etc. So those are the kinds of things that we're using that we want to make available to you guys. So just recently I've started putting together what I call training and development course catalog or training modules. We have enough material now built where we can actually have a course catalog. And the way I've set this up is this. They're organized into categories. So there's an alpha. So O is onboarding and departmental orientation materials, and I'll show you some of these in a second. G stands for training modules that are more general PBE. E stands for EHS and safety training, so on. A couple of key ones I think you're going to be interested. B are body non-structural materials and processes. The P is for refinish on primers and clears, and the C is refinish and color. So those are the categories if you were to open this up. So the first one, if you opened up the PBE, I have several of these built. Now just to kind of give you a little background, if there's no course number, I have started to build the catalog or the module, or I have content for it, but I don't have it really put together in a final format. If you see a course number or a module number, like G150 is body shop equipment on spray booths, that was produced, the revision date, I finalized it on August 1st, 2016. It's 14 pages long. 160 is compressed air. That's 16 pages long. Now, why is that relevant? It means those ones are the course number. I have something I could give you, 14 pages. It should give you an idea how long it would take if you were going to present it. 14 pages, now depending upon how you used it, what else you did, you could probably do that in maybe 20 or 30 minutes. Some of these you're going to see, like that body shop equipment troubleshooting, that's a PowerPoint. It's 30 slides long. That's probably going to take about an hour to go through, depending upon how you do it. So that's just the first one. The next one, non-structural, you can see I've got a lot of these built. There's one on cleaning and degreasing, plastic repair, corrosion protection, etc. Automotive seam sealers, aerosols, etc., etc. Some of these I just have set up. They're the SOP, so it's a one-sheet document. You could do, a 15-minute lunch and learn with the guy on a couple of those. The primers and clears. Now this is really more refinish process, but there's a lot of these I have built. Applying refinish coatings, introduction to undercoats, basics of mixing. This is not on a scale. It really talks about mixing ratios. How do you mix? How do you use a mixing cup? How to set up a spray gun. Now some of these you guys have seen before. And you should be familiar with some parts of it. The automotive color are some of the things that we've talked about, some of the basics. So we're going to be updating some of those modules that we just had at the May sales training meeting. Those are modules that are available to you. And then we're building a whole set of sections on selling skills, primarily relative to a TransStar TM or RM, but these could even be used with a salesman at a jobber. So I mention this because these modules, I think, are a flexible tool for you. It allows you to customize the course. You can select the modules based upon the time that you have available, based upon the audience. Who am I training? What's their level? What do they need? And the needs of them. So the modules really kind of go together to build the course that you want. And that's how we've used them. Now, where do you find them? I'm just getting this set up, but I think you're going to want to check this out. If you go to the TransStar Z Drive, which you should have access to, so my screen is up there. Yours may not look just like this. I have access to a lot of drives. You'll see everything on your desktop as well as the drives that you have access to. I've been told that the sales force, the guys in the field, TMs and RMs and TSRs have access to the Z Drive. If you go to the sales folder, you click on the sales folder, I have added a new folder within there called training modules. So there's how to get to it. Once you open that up, I've started to populate that folder with these modules. So it has the module number and the name on there. I will put that course catalog and index in there so you could print it out and look at it. You could highlight it, identify what you want. But you'll see there's probably 10 or 12 courses I've loaded in there already. And as I finish them or tweak them, I will keep adding them. If there's something you need that you don't see there, let me know and I may have it done, or I may say, hey, we don't have it done right now. We won't be able to get it to you for a while. So that's how to access all of the training modules. You don't need to call me. You don't need to email me to send you the stuff. You can grab it there. And as I update them, I will change the revision date, or you'll see the date that was modified. You can get the most current copy of them. A couple of important points. I would encourage you to familiarize yourself with the content, particularly before you use it in training. Don't just simply print it out, go into training and open it up, and you're looking at it for the first time with the audience. That's going to be really obvious to them. The way I do it is I print it out, I go through it, and I go based upon who I'm training. I take a yellow highlighter and highlight key points that I want to make sure we emphasize. You might do that, whatever is your style. Also, don't modify the content. The content is there because I've worked. This isn't me just putting stuff down. I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of TMs, a lot of RMs. All the techs have provided input on this stuff. So the content is there trying to keep us out of trouble and the learner. Don't ad lib or contradict what's in there, our SOPs and tech data sheets in particular. You don't say, hey, I know the tech data sheet says and the SOP says you should, clean with solvent-borne degreaser and then water-borne degreaser, but you really don't need to do that. That's going to get us in trouble. Also, notify the training department of any errors that you see in there. I mean, we work on them a lot, but that doesn't mean they're completely free of errors. Or if you think there should be things that should be added or any recommendations for improvement. This is all about continuous improvement, and these aren't my documents, they're ours. So take ownership, we own them together, we can use them together.
Steve, I'd say also recommendations, if you see there's a course needed, or you see requests, or you see a gap within our current portfolio of courses, let us know. We're obviously looking to expand this library. Steve's done a great job of building this out. As you can see, guys, a lot of content here that we can utilize. But if you see that there's any holes or any gaps, the team is definitely more than willing to help create that content.
Yeah, in fact, I've got a whole list of courses or modules I'd like to build. It's just a matter of time. So if I get requests, hey, I really need, this topic, yep, I'll move it up on a priority. So let me know. Hopefully that's useful. So other training support materials. A lot of these you know about. I'm just going to remind you. Spray out panels and applied samples like shown in the upper left. We used a lot of those at the Reillys training we just did in June.
And Steve, I think that's where we were most impactful, where people learned a lot. When we got something in their hand, they were able to bend it or see it or touch it, spray it with a lot of the booth stuff. That's when I saw the guys really be able to interact and really get a deeper understanding about what we were discussing.
Yeah, which kind of brings up the point. If your training is going to have hands-on, you have access to a booth, you're going to be spraying on panels. You may need less of these. If you don't have access to a spray booth or hands-on, you're going to want to have spray-out panels. Even if you're going to do them, I think it can lend credibility. It gives a visual to what you're talking about. So, for example, that one set of spray-out panels, I know you guys have seen these. It's the Starshade system. We talk about Starshade. It's in the handout manual, but we show them the spray-out panel. We pass it around the room, and then we show them the spray-out panels with some base coat. There's an example of yellow and a red on there. Now, I know you guys might ask me, hey, do you have extra samples of those? I have some, but I have limited availability to these. Usually I get a tech rep who's really good at doing that tape off, and he'll spray them out. We'll see if we can help you. That one on the upper left with that little ring on it are the small cube panels. They're about maybe 2 by 3 size. Those are all of our aerosols I sprayed out. I did those myself. And then I got a little key ring from a local hardware store, and it kind of banded them together, and they're marked on the back. The test panels in the middle, some of those I know you guys have if you've been into some of our training. And those are samples of corrosion test, the ASTM crosshatch test.
You're referencing our primer training.
That was the primer and undercoat training. That was a great example. I show the hands-on material like a spray gun. Now, we didn't do this as well at our last training, which we're going to do better in the future. We talk about how to set the gun up, the gun controls. Give the guy a gun. Even better, have him do it. Yeah. Have him have a sheet of masking paper on the wall and spray out on it. And then we've even done some liquid comparisons. I think you guys saw this at the May sales meeting. We had a sample of our reducer with Nomex base coat and a sample of one of the competitions showing that the volume and weights are substantially different. Anything that can lead a visual reference. Now, in a minute I'm going to talk about prepping. Putting this stuff together takes some time, and you got to get the stuff. Some of these have to be done well in advance, and then getting it organized to say, okay, how do I get it there? I have big plastic bins with all of this organized, and as time goes by, we get more and more and more of it. So how do you organize yourself? So it's just some other types of training materials, support materials, charts, tables. You guys have seen some of these. You could use what we have, or you could create your own depending upon who you're working with. You could customize it for the customer. So there's an example of a little spec chart I put together, basically data off the tech sheets for our undercoats. You guys have those. I think I've sent you guys copies of it. Cheat sheets and job aids, something that can help an O'Reilly store manager. Like even our SOPs to some degree are a cheat sheet because at the bottom it shows other products that could be used. Templates, checklists. For example, I have a demo checklist. One of the sales guys, a new TM, asked, what are the kinds of things I'm going to need if I go in a demo? Every time I pass this out in our onboarding class, and I keep enhancing it as I learn new things. And readings, an article. I have a collection of body shop business and other articles that are relevant to a topic. It just lends another voice to support what we're doing. So if you need something particular, let me know. Or if you create something and you think it's good, let me know. We can share it and utilize it. Also, videos, I think, are a great tool as well. There's a variety of these available. Sources, for example, our own TransStar Tech Tip videos. We have a small library. We'd like it to be bigger, but like if I were talking about trim blacks, I might show the trim black video in there. It's about 3 minutes long, even if you didn't have access to the booth. Some of the other ones, and you guys may be familiar with these, but if you're not, or just a reminder, the spray equipment manufacturers have some great videos, SATA and DeVilbiss in particular. I was trying to find one that I've shown before. SATA has one that talks about gun distance, speed, overlap that's very good. We sometimes show that in conjunction with spray guns that's good before a guy goes out in the garage. Another one that I've used, I think I sent out one recently, is from SCRS. That's the Society of Collision Repair Specialists. They do some nice ones. If you go on YouTube, you can see some of theirs. They do some on corrosion protection and seam sealers, etc. Refinish Network has some good ones, particularly one on blending. There's another one that I've seen that's good called the Garage Butler. You might also show bad videos. There's as many bad videos as there are good ones, maybe more. One I was just telling about Jeremy this morning. A guy is going to spray clear coat on a panel, and he masks the vehicle off, and he's got the spray gun ready, and he takes his hand and he wipes it over the panel. No tack rag and no glove on. Just his bare hand, he's wiping over the base coat before he sprays clear coat. So might be a good illustration. So just a few tips there. So Jeremy, before we move into best practices, anything you want to add here on materials that are available?
I say, guys, leverage Steve, leverage the content that we have, but most importantly, get it as interactive as possible. The trainings that I've seen that have been the most successful have been interactive. Whether that's throwing out a joke, getting the guys having a conversation, or posing potential questions. Hey, guys, somebody comes into your store location, is doing a bare metal repair. What type of primer should he use? Get the guys interacting. Get them thinking about our products, how they would use their products, and how they could service their customers better.
By the way, I'm just looking at some of the questions while Jeremy was talking.
A couple of maybe go through a couple of them?
Yeah, well, I'm having a little trouble seeing these. I don't know why. But a couple of you guys had sent in a note, a couple of guys and gals, that the Z drive wasn't available. I sent a note to IT to make sure you guys had access to it. So I'll make sure that file is available. I started loading it. He said he was going to check, but we'll make sure it's loaded within the next day or so. In fact, by the end of today's Friday, I'll check with him to see if it's in there. Okay. So if it's not there, check in. In fact, I'll send out a note just reminding everybody where to find it. So best practices. So some of these are just, I guess, standard policy, and some of these are going to be customer specific to O'Reilly. So Jeremy, maybe you can comment on the first best practice here.
Yeah, first is, and I think this really hits true with what I was talking about with Kevin make sure we've identified the markets to mutually grow together. Like these are targeted areas where we want them, right? Being purposeful. I want to make sure that we have the correct focus to be able to execute on our distribution strategy. So we're not looking to train everybody. We're looking to train the locations where we need distribution, and we're looking to make a strong push with O'Reilly's and really try to drive some PBE sales. Also, make sure we invest in markets where there's potential, right? Where we have the right market size, and then we also have the right people to support it. We want to invest in people that are hungry for PBE. We want to invest in people that are hungry to support us. We want to invest in people that are driven to drive PBE growth. I mean, we need to make sure that we don't go run around training everybody. Be purposeful. It should be in the target areas that we want with the right people. And guys, when we do that correctly, we've already seen it. It drives substantial growth. So year to date with O'Reilly's alone, we're up 25% year-over-year growth. So we're having substantial growth with this organization when we're purposeful, when we work together, when we come up with a plan, and most importantly, provide the training for them to help us sell more stuff.
Just a few good men, right?
Yeah.
Can you do a Jack Nicholson impression? So audience, I would encourage you to understand who is your audience that you're going to be training. Might seem kind of obvious, but it's a really key question that's probably going to drive a lot of what we talked about. What is their skill set and competency? Are they a beginner, novice level individual? Are they intermediate, or are they more advanced and expert? I'd love to say we have a method right now that can identify where somebody is, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. There is no good way. We could test individuals. We challenge ourselves with trying to understand our own employees for this. In general, that you kind of spread them into two groups, beginner and more advanced. There's no kind of demarcation of three groups. Just the group we just had. We had guys that were painters that they felt they were really experts. One guy sprayed 38 mils of clear on one of those hoods, so the expert may not be as expert as we sometimes like to think. So, but it's important to kind of understand that. Also, how much time you're going to allot. So, if you've got expert level people in a short amount of time, you're going to pick a few technical topics and get in real deep. Beginner level, you may want to just be cursory. So, obviously, as obviously as that might sound, it needs to be addressed. And then finally is, what do they need to know? So is it product knowledge? If it's product knowledge, are you going to talk about AP? Are you going to talk about undercoats, clear, color, etc.? Is it process? And kind of product and process almost go hand in hand. You can't talk about product without talking about process. Is it body repair, or is it more refinish? Is it sales? How to present the product, how to demo it, how to sell it, what are the features and benefits of the product? And really, in the case of O'Reilly, if you're talking to a shop, it's more product and process. It's not sales. If you're talking to a job or O'Reilly's, it's almost impossible to separate the product and process from the sales. At the end of the day, they have to sell something. And just ourselves, in the next O'Reilly's training session, we didn't focus on that enough, I don't think. Would you agree?
I think we're going to be doing some more of that.
Some more.
Adding that couple, 2 or 3 fabs about how to get this into a shop, why a person would want it, why to buy it, help them sell our stuff, guys. Because really, that's what our training should drive. Allowing them to be more knowledgeable of products and understand how we're different in the market to be able to sell more for us.
Yeah, I would even say as a TM, when you come in here for training, when we go out in the garage to spray, we come back up here, one of the things that we ask is, tell us about what you sprayed. What did you like, you not like, how did it compare? The reason we're doing that, we're trying to get everybody talking about it. What are the words you would use to describe it? Hopefully one TM hears another guy say, hey, this is what I saw. Hey, I'm going to use that language. So what we would like to do with O'Reilly's next time is, at the end of the first day when they spray undercoats, is talk about what you sprayed. What did you like, what you not? How would you sell this? What are the features you think you'd emphasize? So structure the course around the audience is really important. Another thing is, think about the individuals who are training. These are not students, elementary school students. They're adult learners. As obvious as that might sound, adults learn in different ways. We have a whole different set of experiences. Here's one slide, and there are books written on this subject. Adults want information right away. They don't want to belabor lots of theory. They want to know what they need to learn. What do I need to learn from my job? They also have lots of personal experiences. They want to be able to share those and get feedback on it. That last one, framework. They want to develop a schema or a mental model of how things are done. What is the process I need to do this? Don't give me a lot of fluff. What is the process I need to sell? So think about the people we're training as adults, which kind of leads into what are the goals for the training. Now, a lot of people say there's 4 levels of training. I'm going to show you this and think about this for just a second. First level is just awareness. Enlighten the learner to improve just what's going on in their attitude. Certainly when we bring in Reillys, we're making them aware of TransStar and our products. Secondly, knowledge. This is the one we probably think about when we think about training. Things like product knowledge, specific information they need. Third one, motivation. Move the learner to take action. I think to a large degree, we're doing that with our Reillys. We want them to take action. What is the action? Sell our product. And then finally, skill and behavior change. The biggest challenge for learners or trainers is giving the tools to perform differently on the job. What might an O'Reilly's person need to do differently on the job? Change the way they sell. So I think to some degree when we're talking about training O'Reilly's personnel, it's all 4 of these. I'd encourage you to think about that, because how do you build a course? How do you talk about that to address those 4 goals? So basic practices. Jeremy, maybe you want to share some of these. Some of these you commented on, brought to bear.
Yeah, first, know your audience, right? Sometimes it's going to be a basic level course, right? And if we're developing a new market where they're new to PVE, guys, it will be a basic course. We got to give them a common level understanding of not only PVE, but also some of the standard operating procedures for shops, right? That's the only way that we together are going to be able to provide value. Anytime if you found that person who's a driver, who's a go-getter, whether it's a TSM or an RFSM or a PVE specialist, anytime we can do that one-on-one type of field work, when we're working in conjunction in the field, view that as a training day. Because if you have one-on-one time with a guy and you show them in a shop how to do it, how to sell a clear coat, how to sell a primer, how to get our system in a shop, man, you just trained a person to sell when you're not there. So that is very impactful. Make sure that we make the most of a day or 2 that we have in the field with a person, especially if it's one-on-one. That is an excellent training time that we have with O'Reilly's. Also in small groups, right? We can be very impactful, whether it's a counter clinic, getting the O'Reilly's guys up and running, trained on our products. I remember one of the first O'Reilly's I went into, we met with an ISS guy. It was me and Jim Mueller. We were in Georgia, and we were just driving around, and we said, hey, let's go into that O'Reilly's. And this was about a little over 3 years ago. We go into this O'Reilly's, give the ISS or the inside sales specialist a quick training on our clear coats. He converts his clear business over to TransStar. Nobody had ever trained him before. Immediately. So he's the guy who picks up the phone and commercial customers or body shops called and order product. Well, guess what? Anytime anybody called him, he was always telling them TransStar moving forward. So, these small trainings, these small things that we can do to build a relationship with the organization, that's what's going to drive a lot of numbers for us. And most importantly, that's what creates somebody to sell TransStar products for you.
This last point on maximum class size, I would just encourage you to think about this. It's easy for us to say, well, if we're going to do the training, let's bring more and more people in. I have found that it makes it extremely difficult for the person training, and for the attendee, it kind of takes away from some of what they benefit. I don't think there's a flat number. If you're doing hands-on training, I would say it's about 6 people per trainer, like a tech rep like Marcus. We had 12 people in, 13 for the last one. Marcus was in a booth. I was in the other booth. Jim Mueller was there, so we had some but think about how big it is. But it really depends upon the goal, the type of training you're doing, the location. The room size can be certainly a limiting factor. A couple other best practices. So I'd encourage you to plan. Who are you training? What are you doing? Where are you going to do it? And when? Get all that arranged. Prepare. That's critical. It took me about 3 days to pull together all the material for that 3-day training. And then I had to get it over to the college. it takes some time. If you don't do it, you're going to look foolish. And we have done that sometimes when things aren't there. So preparation, you're never going to be able to perform if you don't plan and prepare beforehand. As obvious as that seems, you got to take the time to do it, I would say. A few other things. What we've really started to think about is think about what are you going to do before the course, what are you going to do during the course, and then what are you going to do post-course. So before the course, try to prepare the attendees for learning. If you want to really make the course impactful, get them thinking about what are the topics you're going to do. Get them eager to want to come. Start to develop their mindset and readiness. One of the simple things we start to do is sending out an article or several, or an activity. So like before the Reillys course, I sent out an article that kind of touched, it was done by Body Shop Business, and it touched on almost all the points, really high level of the things we were going to go through in the course. So you might think about that. Could be something that you created. And then during the course, you're obviously going to present and discuss and do the exercises, challenge their thinking, their understanding. Do they really understand it? And then after the course, this isn't about just training them once. It's not an event. It's really a process of learning. Is what are you going to do to follow up so that they retain the knowledge? If you look at our dissipation of learning, it's pretty quick. I think I forget the exact numbers, but within 6 weeks, we lose about 50% of what we learn. And then within a month or 2 months or so, it goes down. So continued communication and reinforcement, just remind them of how to use the product, how to sell that, is, I think, going to help in overall learning and retention.
I think the most impactful post-course activity that we could do, field sales days. Get out, we just trained them, we got them up and running. If you see a person that is really driven, that is in your targeted market and in your space where you're looking to grow, let's do a ride day with them. Let's get them up and running.
End of the course, you might say, hey, let's schedule a ride-along day right now.
Perfect time.
Yeah. Basic types of training. This may seem obvious. One of the types of training we do is onboarding. What are we going to do the first 30, 60, 90 days? Now, that's an employee. I said to Jeremy, we might think about the same thing with an O'Reilly's store, district, or individual. How do you plan on onboarding? What do they need to know in the first 30, 60, 90 days? Then certainly product training, which we've been talking about, sales training, which is more skills-based, and technology training. By that I mean software. So I'm going to talk about item 2 and 3 in a second, but software training. So when we think about technology training for a TM, the 2 big ones that come to my mind, 2 or 3, are getting a TM up and running on their Surface Pro, their phone, on Goldmine, the CRM, and now the Nomics Einstein software. So for an O'Reilly's individual, it's really getting them trained on the software. Think about what's the best way to train somebody on software. It's not giving them a handout. It's not standing up and showing them. It's getting them on the computer and having them do hands-on while you're doing it. So product training. Think about what's the most effective way to train. Certainly product specifications and fabs, but a lot of what we've seen is who are the kinds of customers that they're going to be selling? How does the usage of the product vary? What are the other types of products you can use? What are the competing products I'm going to sell against? What are the types of objections I'm likely to hear? How am I going to respond to them? What are the customer biases? If you can address that in product training, I think you'll be more effective. Sales training, it really is kind of picking parts of a sales process, I think. So I've just picked a couple that are in our sales process. Some of these may apply directly, I think, to an O'Reilly's individual. Certainly qualifying a shop. Do we want to sell every and any shop Nomics? I don't think so. And you got to get the O'Reilly's guy helping you. Assessing needs. It's the same for an O'Reilly's individual as it is for us. Closing, onboarding, etc. We've talked about this. Training is about student learning. It isn't about us presenting. So I think we need to act like a teacher, a facilitator, and a coach. Keep it interactive. There's an old line, I've got this quote on my wall. Tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I may remember. Involve me and I'll understand. That's what they're going to take away. So how do you do that? I've just listed a few that we use that you might use. And this is going to be more dependent on you. Jeremy and I talked this morning. Maybe there's some of these that we can help you with.
Also the facility. right? Where the training is going to be held, whether it's
We'll dictate this.
We'll dictate what we're able to do from a hands-on or interactive.
So demonstration, you know, if we have a tech rep in and we want him to demonstrate blending, the tech rep goes in the booth. Here's what we're going to do. They go and do it, and then we talk about it afterwards. It's quick. It's easy. It doesn't require everybody in the class to do the hands-on. Hands-on spray-outs, hands-on testing, you guys have done that. If you have a booth available, that's obvious. Case scenarios are a really good one. Troubleshooting, hey, shop has this problem, you know, product delaminated. What would have been the cause for that? Get them talking about and applying the skill. Product application, you go into a shop, they're looking to undercoat a plastic bumper, they have this issue, what product would you recommend? Sales role play is a good one, I think. It's like ones we just mentioned. Group activities can be good, getting 2 or 3 guys together. If you have the time, it takes a lot of time. It's a great way to learn. Games, if you can do it, make it a little competition. And then we do the learning assessment, the quizzes that we just like did at the May Salesman. It gets people thinking about, okay, what's the difference? If I had several choices to make between an option, which is the right answer? What's the correct solution? Jeremy, any thoughts on some of these?
You know, I think the key underlying message, guys, is get it interactive. You know, the best trainings that I've seen, especially with the Reillys, we get their guys interactive. We get them providing feedback, providing recommendations, and most importantly, get them thinking about how to use these products to drive same-store sales growth. Because believe me, that is a hot topic for O'Reilly's and for any of these strategic accounts is same-store sales growth. PBE is a great avenue to do that.
So just finishing up with a few other best practices. So activities and scenarios, you got to make it practical. Just having an activity, I've been to some training, and you guys probably have as well. You wonder, what is the purpose of this? It's got to be specific. I would emphasize the purpose of the activity beforehand and afterwards. And afterwards, encourage the learner, the person, discuss the activity. What did you do? What did you learn from that? How could you apply that? That's kind of what we're doing when we do the takeaways in our course. Okay, great. We just went through that. What does it mean for me in my job when I go back into the field? Now, we just tried to do that with the O'Reilly's guys, and I don't think it worked all that great.
No.
I don't think they got it. Usually when we do it with you guys, the TMs, we get some good discussions. So you may have to help the students along, but I think that's really important. Take the time to say, okay, this is what you should have learned and how it can apply. A few other thoughts. Be unpredictable. You know, if it's predictable, it's a pattern, it's going to be boring. Move around as an instructor, an advisor, change the field. Sometimes I change the way the room's laid out. And depending upon the course length, get them moving up and around. We just did that at that meeting in Romulus. We did it at the meeting at Baker. We had the guys getting up, moving. Try to vary the day because it's tough to sit. I know it is. I mean, it's brutal when you bring a guy in. We want to give you a lot of training and make it worthwhile, but that's on the other hand.
Yeah.
At the conclusion, I would encourage you to ask for input and feedback on the course and your training. Try to identify areas of continuous improvement. You guys have done that at the end of our courses, and I think our courses, the only reason they've gotten better is because you guys have provided feedback on it. So I would encourage you, if you get feedback and can improve on it, great. Give us the feedback too. What can we do better to help you guys? So, and the last one, have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, not often you get to train 60 people or 40 people or work with that many individuals. So have some fun, train them up on PBE, and most importantly, get them excited, right? I mean, you guys know that by selling PBE, you know, a typical hard parts guy, they can earn, you know, it's around 4 times the average ticket. So their store is making more money, and it's 3 to 4 times more profitable. So you're helping those people achieve their goals. You're helping those people hit their numbers, and most importantly, you're helping them be successful personally. So that's exciting.
So I would love to turn this open for questions and answers, but we are having an audio problem. And any thoughts or comments, Jeremy, before we?
Could we have them type? Could they type in questions?
Look, some guys have typed in question. The big question was on the Z drive, and I understand.
Okay.
understand that. I'll get that resolved. I thought Chris had taken care of it. We'll get that done. And it should be done within the next, like I said, it'll be done the next week, but I'll send a note out on it.
Well, guys, I'd say in summation from my end, we have a group or an organization that wants to work with us, that wants to support us, wants to partner with us, wants to grow with us. And we see that in the growth year to date and over the past couple of years. We're rapidly expanding into new distribution, new areas. And one of the biggest things they require and they request is training. And I'm confident that if we provide the investment in training and initial field support, we're going to have a partner that goes out into the field, that tees up opportunities for us. We're a first call on a potential body shop install, and most importantly, they have our back when we're entering into a new market and we can aggressively grow together.
Well, gentlemen, I would just add, we've added a lot of new content to our training, and I'd love to make it available to you guys. I think we can give a man a fish and feed him for a day, and teach a man to fish and eat for a lifetime. Hopefully, you guys are going to be much more effective at training with these materials than we can be limited here. So, if you have questions, ideas, send them to me. Call me. I'll be happy to discuss them with you. We'll continue to get these modules loaded up, and I wish you guys success in using them in the field. So thanks for joining us today. Have a great weekend, guys.
See you guys.